Hello guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Dolapo. I live in the UK and I share about faith, beauty and lifestyle, and most especially most of my videos have been about scholarships, how to apply for different fully funded scholarships. And I know it's been a while guys, I'm sorry. Life has been happening, school actually has been happening. I had to write my dissertation. It's been a whole journey, but today, at the time I'm filming this video, today marks 1 year since I relocated to the UK to start my master's. Oh my, it's so surreal, and I'm so grateful to God, because this would not have been possible without God at all. And you know, looking back, and I can just literally see the faithfulness of God all through my stay here in the UK. I believe that God has laid it in my heart to share this testimony to someone who may probably, be at that point and they are thinking or really wanted to get a scholarship and maybe it's not forthcoming, and just someone that needs an encouragement. Basically, I may or may not cry in this video, so please watch out, because it has really been an emotional journey, and like I said, I'm so grateful to God. And yeah, so let's get right into it. So where do I start from? Okay, so I'll start from my final year in medical school. So for those of you that don't know, I did my undergrad, that's my medical undergraduate degree in Russia. So I studied, let me just put it in plain English, I studied medicine in Russia, Cool State Medical University to be precise. I studied for 6 years. I remember in my final year in medical school, and I'm pretty sure most people can relate to this, and if probably you're watching this video in your final year in medical school, you can probably relate to this as well, when you are thinking, okay, what next? Now, I come from Nigeria, and the situation of doctors in Nigeria right now is not very encouraging. Whatever is happening right now, the pay, you work a lot of shifts but don't get enough pay. Like, just hearing the stories of what's happening to doctors in Nigeria and how doctors are faring in Nigeria kind of discourages you to want to practice medicine in Nigeria. So what many of us do, or what I started to do, was started to look for ways by which I can how they say, japa from Russia straight up without having to go to Nigeria. As much as I trust me, I do love Nigeria. Nigeria is my homeland. Nigeria will always be my country. I missed my family because for like 5 years or 4 years I hadn't seen my family. So of course I missed my family and I really wanted to see them. But at the same time, I just wondered if I was going to, in my plan as at then was that, okay, even if I'm going to see them, I'm going to them for like a short visit, and then I'm traveling to wherever I'm traveling to. In my head, I thought that was how easy it was going to go, but God had other plans. So yeah, like I said, I was at that stage in my final year in medical school thinking, what next? I started to do some research about, and mind you, I had not really known about scholarships to actually study like other courses. If you want to do your master's, I never even had any thoughts of doing masters at that time. In my head, I was thinking there was a way I could travel and practice medicine. But then that was when I started to learn about having to write the PLAB exams. For those of you that know what PLAB is, it's like a medical license exam if you want to study if you want to practice as a medical doctor in the UK. So that when I started to learn about PLAB, I started to learn about other countries like Germany, like other European countries, even like in the US, how I have to write like USMLE, which is another like licensing exam to be able to practice as a doctor. So basically, it was looking at, after doing my research, I realized that it still boils down to having to write an exam, and it's still a process. You cannot just go like that. So looking at the time I had, the only way out was actually just go back to Nigeria and actually get my license to practice as a medical doctor in Nigeria, and then probably think of what I can do from there. So I really didn't want to stay back in Russia, and even when I prayed about it, like God wasn't leading me to stay back in Russia, although some people did, but I didn't have a leading to stay back in Russia to practice as a doctor. But God was telling me, it's time to go back home. And even though I didn't want to at that time, as much as I love and miss my family, but I didn't want to like practice in Nigeria at that time because of like the stories I've heard and how difficult it is and everything. Even like the license exam, I heard so many stories about the license exam, that so many people don't pass the exam and all of that. So I was just, fear gripped me, and those were the things that contributed to me not wanting to go back. But I had to obey God, and I went back to Nigeria. Now, when I went back to Nigeria, I started doing an observership. So I had a very good family friend of mine who worked at who was a head or chief matron at Lagoon Hospitals, and Lagoon Hospital is like one of the big private hospitals in Lagos, even in Nigeria. So I started to do like an observership is more like a shadowing, so whereby you shadow like a doctor, kind of see what their day-to-day life is like, and that gives you the opportunity to kind of know, okay, this is what my life is going to be like as a practicing doctor. So instead of staying at home, when I came back to Nigeria, I started going for the observership. I did that for about 6 months, and it was really interesting. I was able to now learn more about practicing in Nigeria, because it's totally different from what we know or what I knew in Russia. So yeah, and that went on for 6 months, and then towards the end of the 6 months, the only option that was there for me to write my medical license exam. So I started practicing and reading and prepping for medical license exam. I went for like a tutorial, met wonderful people who were also doctors as well, who were also preparing for the exam. And as God would have it, I wrote the exam, I passed, to the glory of God. Many of my friends too passed, and we're so happy, we were rejoicing. And then after, the way the process is that once you now have your license, that after passing the exam, you can now practice as a doctor, but you do like a 1-year internship program. So mind you, during this time while I was also kind of preparing for the exam, remember that at the back of my mind, I still wasn't willing to practice in Nigeria. And honestly, like looking back, I'm like, what was actually the problem? I guess it's just because of the stories and the fear that just gripped me about the whole, I just heard so many stories about practicing in Nigeria that really scared me. Because I look back at it, I'm like, okay, why was I so hell-bent on not wanting to practice in Nigeria? Is my home country. I should be excited to want to practice. But because of the fear and all of the stories I've heard, and, I just didn't want to. So at the back of my mind, I was still looking for like other options, and that was when I started discovering about master's scholarship and PhD scholarships. So I started applying for master's scholarship then. Actually, even before I started my internship, I already started applying for scholarships, master's scholarship, and this was in 2021. I think I got back to Nigeria 2020. Yeah, from 2020 to 2021, I'd already started, doing some like minor applications. Actually, for some weird reason, I was applying for PhD scholarships more, because I had heard that PhD, they do give scholarships more than masters, and based on like what I was finding during my research online for scholarships in UK and like in just European countries, I had already like felt okay, PhD. And I'm looking back, I'm just laughing at myself, because now I've done a master's. I'm just like, what was I thinking? It's possible though to go from a bachelor's to do your PhD. Like, it's people do it, it's very possible. But I like looking back at it, I would have definitely struggled if I had gotten a PhD scholarship and I was doing a PhD and I didn't do a master's first. That happened. So while I was preparing for my exam, at the same time doing my observership, at the same time I was applying for scholarships. I actually did almost get one scholarship. I actually was interviewed, I think it was in Austria. It was a university in Austria, a PhD scholarship. I'd already gotten to like the interview stage, but then I wasn't picked. And I remember that day when I got the email, because it's something I was really looking forward to. I prayed, I fasted for it. And mind you, all this time I was praying and fasting, not even knowing that this was not even God's will for me at that time. But I was still praying and fasting, and I was believing God, faith and everything. And then I got the rejection emails for like so many scholarships I applied for, and even the one that was this close to getting, which was like the PhD scholarship, I got like an email that, oh, I didn't make it through. And I remember that day, I wasn't, for some weird reason, I wasn't even sad. Like, there was just this, I couldn't explain, there was this peace that, when the Bible said the peace that surpasseth all understanding, there was this peace that came, and I can't explain it. Like, this peace just came, and I was just joyful. I was like, you know what, God, let your will be done. So fast forward, I just paused. I stopped applying for scholarships so that I can now focus on my exam, because it was towards my exam. My exam was in June of 2021. I think that's my medical license exam. So I needed to like focus on that more, and you know, I didn't have any time again to really apply as much. I was still doing some little minor applications then, which turned out to be rejections. So to the glory of God, I passed my exam. I started my medical internship in September of 2021 at the Federal Medical Center in Ebutimeta. Awesome place. I really enjoyed my time there. Of course, it was full of like ups and downs, but I really enjoyed my time there. I met so many amazing doctors who we are still friends till today, and it was just an amazing experience for me. And looking back, I realized that I really needed to have done my medical internship, because it's like I was running away from having to practice in Nigeria. But God had other plans. God really wanted me, because the people that I met, the experience that I gained, looking back at it, these are things that I'm using now, and I'm grateful that I kind of have that experience now that I look back at it. And that's why the Bible says that, you know, our ways are not God's ways, and that God's thoughts are higher than our own thoughts. Even though I was trying to, you know, jackpot as much as possible, I was applying, but God had other plans. God was saying, no, it's not time. And I remember I applied for so many scholarships, even the scholarship that I eventually got, which I will still share. I had applied for it before in that same 2021 period, and I didn't get it. So all the scholarships that I applied for came back with rejection emails in 2021, and then I just, you know, I kind of almost gave up. I lost hope. I remember that, you know, that morning when the last email came for the last scholarship I was waiting for, which was the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. I think I really took time to apply for that scholarship, so I was so pained when I didn't get like any positive response. So I remember that day I cried. I was like, God, what's happening? Like, you're seeing my efforts, I've prayed, what's going on? So I just said, okay, God, no problem. So I continued my internship, and then now going back to the beginning of 2022. So at the beginning of 2022, I kicked up my faith again, and then I started applying again. So because I had already known the scholarship which were available, it was easy for me. So I didn't have to start searching all over again. And because my documents already, I already had an idea of how to write a scholarship letter. I already had my references. I already had my CV. So most of basically the things I needed to apply, I already had them. So it was easy for me to reapply again. So that was what I did. So I started to apply again for scholarships. And although in 2021 I was applying for scholarships in other countries and not UK, but when I started applying again this time around in 2022, I was applying only for UK, because I just had a strong leading that God was leading me to come to the UK and not other countries. So I put all my focus. So, and if you have watched my video of how to get a fully funded scholarship, I shared it there, how, you know, I was just focused on just the UK. So that's what I did, and I started applying for scholarships again. And rejection emails started coming back again. And at this point, mind you, I had kind of revised, because now I have more experience. This is the experience I'm talking about now, because I had gained experience. When I first applied for scholarships, I had not done my internship. So I didn't really have any solid experience in kind of like a public health field, or even any experience at all. The only experience I had was an observership, which was really not enough, and I was using that to apply for scholarships. So whenever they're asking about like volunteering experience or any experience you had, because I applied for like mainly public health courses and all of that, I didn't really have any experience to show. Now looking back, it's not like I say, okay, experience is like, okay, if you don't have experience, you don't get a scholarship. Some people probably still get scholarships without having like a solid background experience, but I would say that it increases your chances of getting a fully funded scholarship, at least if you have like solid experience. So now by during my internship years, I'd already gained a lot of experience, because now I was working in a public health facility, which is like a medical center. I had already like known the ins and outs of like I kind of already had an idea of how the health system in Nigeria is. So I was able to put that into my scholarship letters. I was able to put that in my CV, so it kind of helped me. And even during that time, I was volunteering in some outreaches like church outreach, medical outreach, and all of that. So I was able to now combine that whole experience into my next and application. So when I was applying, of course I'm applying again, I had to now revise all my scholarship letters. I had a very good friend of mine who really helped me. God bless him. Even till now, I'm still praying for him. He really helped me to look over like my scholarship letters and everything. He helped me to like revise it, corrected some things, and I submitted. So while applying and submitting my applications, so that was not the waiting period when I will now start waiting for the outcome and the feedback from my applications. So mind you, I was still doing my internship during this time, and I was coming towards the end of my internship. My internship was going to end in August, and these applications were happening around February to like April of 2022. So I started getting feedbacks around March, April. So if you applied, let's say February, you probably get a feedback like April. If you applied like March, so it just depends basically. But I started getting feedbacks from like April up to like June. Yeah. So around May, April, May, applications that I applied, like the application I already put in, I was getting negative feedbacks from them. I was getting rejection emails, that, oh, I'm sorry, this, that. Like every time, like that time, whenever I'm with my phone and I just see an email notification, I will be excited to open it, be hopeful that okay, I'm going to one day see a positive email. But around that time, it was just rejection emails. And most of the scholarships I applied for, they were fully funded, but only probably cover only your tuition fees. So in my head, I was thinking, oh yeah, I can, if even like at least let me just get one, I will find a way to come to the UK and work. And I'm gonna address this later. And it's just about like that mindset that okay, you can work and raise up your tuition fees. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but I feel like people don't say it enough how difficult it is. Because I have friends, and I know people, I have friends who had to do that, who had to raise like half of their tuition fees by working. And it's not easy studying at the same time having to work 20 hours per week, and some even do more, which is not legal or right, by the way. But because of that desperation, because you just need to pay your tuition fees, people would like you work, and people make it seem like as if, oh, once you come, you work, you raise the money. Yes, that is possible, but I want you guys to know that be prepared that it's not going to be that easy to be able to raise thousands of pounds when you only have a limit of 20 hours per week, and you have to study for your masters, you have to submit assignments, you have to do your dissertation. It's not easy, but people don't really talk about it enough. So that was what I thought as well, that oh, I'll just come to the UK, like let's just maybe sort out my tuition fee, my allowance, I'll work and gain my allowance. So I think it was only 2 scholarships, that's the Alan and Nesta, and I can't remember the second one, or 2 or 3, I can't really remember, that actually covered your tuition fee and also your living allowance. So there are only very few scholarships that actually do that. So at that time, I had heard about the Erasmus Mundus, which is on my YouTube channel as well. You can check the video out, how to apply, and from a friend of mine who got the scholarship. I had heard of Erasmus Mundus, I had heard of Chivnin. I wasn't qualified to apply for Chivnin because I hadn't done my NYSC at the time I was applying. I needed to have 2 years experience or something, so I wasn't even eligible to apply for Chivnin, so I didn't apply for the Chivnin scholarship. I applied for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. Did I? I can't remember. Did I apply for No, I didn't apply for Commonwealth again. I honestly can't remember, but there were just very few scholarships that were fully funded, meaning that they'll cover your tuition fee and also your living allowance. So most of the ones I was getting rejection emails from were the ones that will only cover your tuition fee alone. Those are the ones I was looking forward to, because in my head I'm like, at least let me even get that one. Even if I don't get the one that will cover living allowance, let me even get this one. In my head I'm already like, if this ones didn't work out, then how much more the other ones that are even more that are bigger and all of that. So I started to lose hope, and I started becoming sad, because I was at that point again where I'm about to finish, just like the way I was when I was in my final year of medical school, thinking what next. I was already at that point again doing my internship, thinking, God, what next? Like, as much like I don't know how to put it, like I just felt like I needed to leave, and I don't know, just that feeling was just really disturbing, and I think so many people can relate with that, because it's like you're seeing the health system and you are just like, I want to do something about this. Like, you are like, honestly, it was during my internship years, attending to patients, seeing the status and of the economy of the health system. It wasn't encouraging at all, and I just felt like I just needed to leave, learn more, do something, so I can come back and do something about it. That's another thing. So before the first time I really wanted to leave the country, my intentions and my motives were different. So that time my intention was just leave. I just want to japa. But now the second time I was applying, my intentions changed, because I feel like God really wanted me to see how the health system was. God really wanted me to have the experience I had, so that it can now put in a burden inside of me, like a motivation to want to do something. And that was what happened the second time I was applying, and that's why I was applying for public health, because I was like, okay, how can I contribute my own quota when I'm back, in Nigeria? Like, how will I be able to contribute to it? So that was the burden that I now had, that okay, I needed to leave and learn more. And because now I had seen the flawed system, and I had a burden to want to do something about that later, once I've gathered the skills and the knowledge and the experience that I need to be able to do that. That was now my motive and my intention the second time I was applying, and that was like God really wanted me to have that experience. Rejection emails came again, and then finally, I remember I was in my doctor's quarters, like my room then, and the same email that I always expect every time, that turns out to be, the wrong or the rejection email. Another email came, and this time around I saw a congratulations, and I can't explain the way I felt that day. I was overwhelmed with joy. And I feel like God already started giving me signs before that time that I was going to get the scholarship, but a part of me was just still unbelieving because of the other rejections that I had received. So I remember that day, I cried, I was joyful, I quickly drove home, and in fact, I even surprised my parents. I came like with a sad face, and and they were like, what's happening? And then I just screamed, I got the scholarship. And then we were all jumping and screaming, and they were hugging me, and they were just, everybody was just saying, God, thank you. Like, it was a beautiful day. Like, when I shared it with my family and like my close friends, it was like everyone was so happy, because they had known the journey, like back-to-back applications, back-to-back rejections as well. It wasn't easy, and it took a lot of time, a lot of prayers, a lot of energy. And now that I look back at it, now I finished my master's. As of today that I'm filming this video, is 1 year since I got to the UK, and I look back at it and I can just see the faithfulness and the hand of God. When the Bible says in the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 11, it says that yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to the end. I know that God is not finished with me yet, and this is just a start of my journey. But when I look back at it, when the Bible says God made everything beautiful for its own time. Now that I did my master's, this was just the time. It was the time that I needed to, not the time I thought I needed to. The previous rejections in the previous year, it wasn't clearly God's time, but I was forcing it. But God said, no, it's not time. Now I'm looking back and I'm like, this was the time God wanted me, because I feel like God strategically wanted me to meet the people that I met, my classmates, the experience that I brought into my master's course, which really helped me throughout my master's course. If I had not had my internship experience, I would have probably still struggled personally, because the kind of understanding I now have of public health made it easier for me. Because remember, I didn't do public health in my bachelor's, I did medicine in my bachelor's, so it would have been difficult in a kind of way without a practical experience of like working in the health system. And that experience as well also helped me even in my assignments. So if you are doing your masters, you will probably have assignments where you are asked to write academic essays, and depending on the module or the course that you are taking, most times you can pick your own topic for what you want to do. And look now, almost all the topics for the assignments I was doing was basically based on the health system in Nigeria and the kind of things I had seen. So I talked about child marriage, and that's something that I kind of also discovered during my time in Nigeria. Then I had another assignment where I talked about maternal mortality, also based on my practical experience working as a medical doctor in Nigeria. There are other assignments I did just mainly because I'm really passionate about like gender equality, and many of my assignments actually are about women and the issues that women face, like child marriage, maternal mortality, sexual and reproductive health issues, female refugees, and like female internally displaced women, and the kind of problems that they face as well. And even my dissertation, which I just concluded, was about like how the health system and the financial health system doesn't favor women, because women need more healthcare than men, but they're not able to afford it based on different things that happen and that surrounds a woman's life. And I'm able to write all these essays because of the experience I had. And God really crafts our life. Like when you surrender your life to God, God orders your steps, and that's basically what God did. And I myself, I was looking at the scholarships that were only fully tuition scholarships, but God had better plans for me. And the one I eventually got was one that would also cover my living allowance. So I did work during my this thing, but I didn't have to do like a kind of strenuous work. I'll probably working like maybe at most 8 hours per week, because the money was just basically just to like supplement what I was getting. And I had enough time for my study. I didn't have to work at the detriment of my studies, so I had enough time for my studies throughout my 1 year master's course. And God was just providing, like literally this was just the perfect time for me to have my scholarship. And I'm so grateful to God, and I'm sharing this story and my testimony to encourage someone out there. Probably you are at that point, or maybe you are applying for scholarships and you are getting rejections. It's just a time for you to pause, go back, probably review your scholarship letters, and see maybe there are things that you're not writing that they are looking for. But most importantly, go back to God and actually ask him, God, is this the right time for me at this time? Like, is it your will? One thing I realized is that God's ways are not our ways. So whenever I'm praying for something, I'm always like, God, if it's your will, let thy will be done. Because I've tried to force my own will, and because God is so intentional about us, he doesn't let us have our own way, because he loves us and he's so intentional about us. So he will still tell you, as much as it's going to pain you and as much as it's going to hurt you, that you're not getting this thing now, later on you are going to see why you didn't get it now. Later on you're going to appreciate it, because when you're going to look back at that time when I got my rejections, I was crying, I was sad, I was hopeless. I was like, God, are you even here? Are you hearing me? What's happening? But at that time, God was just like, don't worry, when it happens eventually at my own time, you are going to look back and see. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm looking back and I'm seeing that truly I'm grateful that God didn't give me the scholarships then, because I didn't have the right experience. I didn't have the right skills. I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared, but I prepared myself. So when the scholarship did come, I was not able to launch into it and fully enjoy the blessings of God. So I really hope that my testimony and my story has blessed you and encouraged you. So please do not be discouraged if you are applying for scholarships and probably you're not getting the right response. Just use this time that you have to equip yourself, build yourself up, prepare yourself, gain skills, gain experiences, gain knowledge. Because aside from even your master studies, you will need it even after your master. When you start working, you're going to need all these skills that you are gaining now. And for those final year medical students who are really at the crossroad and thinking what to do next, pray and ask God for direction. It's very important that you are literally on the path that God is directing for you. So pray and ask God to direct your path and to show you what you need to do, and he will order your steps. It might not look like what you want, but just trust God that God has the best plan for your life. And that's why Jeremiah 29:11 says that the plans that he has for you, they are plans of good and not of evil, to give you an expected end. So just trust God and believe him that the plans he has for you, they are great plans, and you're going to have a beautiful testimony, because God makes all things beautiful in his own time. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video to the end. If you watched it to the end, thank you for watching it. And like I said, I hope like my story and my testimony has encouraged you. And you know, people might ask, okay, what next for you now? Don't worry, God is in my story, and I'll probably share some more testimonies later on. But honestly, God has been so good, and I'm so grateful. My time in this 1 year that I've been in the UK has been pleasant. I've met amazing people, amazing friends. I now fellowship and I've joined an amazing church, and honestly, I'm so grateful to God. So please and please hold on to the promises that God has for you. The Bible says that even though it's tarry, it will come to pass. So just trust God and believe God that at his own perfect and appointed time, whether it's a scholarship, whatever it may be, whatever it may be that you're believing God for, whatever it is, trust God that he's going to bring it to pass at his own appointed time. Thank you so much once again for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click that subscription button, and if you're a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.